so John,
Yes.
Are debates still relevant in helping voters choose candidates, or are they just political theater at this point?
You know how much I love theater. I think the answer is yes to everything. I think they are political theater, but I think it's political theater that matters some. I mean, I think I'm going to be highly nuanced tonight on everything from extraterrestrials to debates. Look, I think we are all so polarized now that there are times when people go in to watch a debate when they're more set than they might have been in the past. There aren't as many persuadable voters watching a debate. However, I do think on the margins and depending on the race, they can have consequences. I know you're going to be talking about Florida. You know, you have Ron DeSantis against Charlie Crist. Maybe it won't turn the tide in that race down there, but Ron DeSantis wants to be doing things, maybe other things a few years from now, and maybe something can happen on stage tonight will have some impact down the line.
It might persuade people, right, for the 2024 that he's alluding to. But in terms of where we are right now, I mean, this is one of the first times in recent years that the Florida governor's race has been as much of a lead for the Republican candidate, or any candidate, frankly, in this moment in time. And I wonder, given that it seems to be the trajectory that it is this an instance he's auditioning for 2024, or is there still something to lose right now?
Yeah, he is auditioning for 2024, but in a debate, you just don't want to make a mistake. If you make a bad mistake, you can stumble, that can hurt you, but as long as you don't make any big gaffes or errors, you should be fine. But this is not going to change the trajectory of the race. DeSantis is going to win, but he's on a stage, he's looking at 2024. That's what this is about.
Okay, so let's play this moment, Maria, about he was asked directly on if he would serve a 4-year term as governor if he wins.
You're running for governor. Why don't you look in the eyes of the people of the state of Florida and say to them, if you're reelected, you will serve a full 4-year term as governor. Yes or no? Yes or no, Ron? Will you serve a full 4-year term if you're reelected governor of Florida? It's not a tough question. It's a fair question. He won't tell you.
We did not agree on the candidates asking each other questions. Governor, it's your turn.
Well, listen, I know that Charlie's interested in talking about 2024 and Joe Biden, but I just want to make things very, very clear. The only worn-out old donkey I'm looking to put out to pasture is Charlie Crist.
That was a rehearsed line.
So does that help him or hurt him that he won't answer whether or not he would serve?
I actually think with his base, it probably helps him because everyone who loves Ron DeSantis loves the fact that he is now this national figure. They think it probably brings more prestige to Florida. It will give him more power if he does get reelected. And so I think this debate tonight probably didn't change the trajectory, but it's also like one of those Rorschach tests, right? You talk to the DeSantis campaign, they think he obliterated Crist. You talk to the Crist campaign, they think he obliterated DeSantis. But it did needed to be one where it did change the trajectory for Crist, given where he is in the polls. And while I do think from what I hear and what I've seen, Crist did do well in the places where I think he really needed to underscore the extreme nature of DeSantis's agenda in terms of abortion, in terms of LGBTQ, in terms of denying history for the African-American community. All of those things were things that Crist did a really good job of underscoring. And maybe it does matter in the margins. I don't think the margins are going to be big enough for it to change anything.
Well, take a step back. If we're out of Florida for a moment, I know there's a lot of focus on select races, but more broadly, are we really saying that we are, as an electorate, we are so entrenched and our heels are dug in that we essentially think of these races and the debates that are supposed to give an opportunity to figure out and test what you're talking about, that people have already had their minds made up. And if that's the case, then what's with all the ads? I mean, these ads are coming out of the woodwork, right, to make sure they're thinking, hey, hold on, I can maybe get this last person to change their mind.
I've been up late a lot of election nights over the last 2, 4, and 6 years that have turned into election weeks. Why? Because some of these races are wicked close, as we like to say in Boston, right? So I think even though 96% of the people showing up at the polls may be dead set on their vote, there's still this tiniest sliver, as my grandmother would say, a sliver of Nova, the tiniest sliver of the voting population out there who is waiting and watching and can be swayed by something. People don't watch Senate and gubernatorial debates the way they watch presidential debates. I mean, the numbers for these debates are not going to be what they are on the national stage, although...
But the early voting numbers are rivaling some of our presidential elections already, maybe for that reason.
But it seeps into the headlines of the local news. It seeps into the headlines of the papers for a few days, and it can be a thing. So I do think when you're talking about races that can be decided by fewer than 10,000 votes, which you guys know they can be.
Yeah. And there are a lot of them today that can.
There are still an impactful number of swing voters out there. There aren't as many as there used to be, but there are enough because some of these races are going to come down to the wire. A number of them. Pennsylvania Senate race, there are probably 3 or 4 House races in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They're going to be razor thin. And so these swing voters still matter.